Before her face was on magazine covers, June was just the woman who poured your coffee and refilled the napkin holders. She lived quietly on the edge of a small town, in a sun-bleached trailer at the end of a gravel road. The kind of place where the porch light flickered and the mailbox leaned sideways, like it had given up trying to stand straight. Her life was stitched together with quiet routines: wake up at 5, feed her old cat Daisy, take her blood pressure pill, then head off to the diner for the morning shift. June had been a waitress at Marty's for almost 20 years. Same uniform, same shoes with the worn-out soles. Her back hurt more than it used to, and she'd stopped wearing makeup when the good mascara started costing more than she could justify. But she knew her regulars by heart. Hank, who always wanted his bacon not too crispy, not too soft, and Gloria, who came in every Thursday after her water aerobics class, always ordering pancakes and never finishing them. These people weren't friends, not exactly, but they filled the quiet. The town was the kind of place where everyone knew your face but not your story. People smiled politely but didn't ask questions. June had no close family. Her mom had passed a few years back, and her sister, Carla, had moved out west after a fight they never quite came back from. No one really knew that June still cried about that sometimes. No one knew about the little notepad tucked in her nightstand drawer, where she scribbled lists of things she'd do if life were different. Fix the porch steps. Take a train trip. Maybe even try painting again. That kind of dreaming was private, sacred in a way. And every Saturday evening, she'd walk to the gas station after work, buy a pint of mint chocolate chip and a single lottery ticket. She always used the same numbers: her mom's birthday, her own, the year her dad left. The clerk, Leo, always smiled when she came in. "Still dreaming big, huh?" he'd say. And June would just shrug. Habit. She never really believed she'd win. In fact, she rarely remembered to check. Most weeks, the ticket stayed folded in her wallet until it expired. But it wasn't really about winning. It was about the possibility. That tiny, flickering thought that maybe, just maybe, everything could change. Her trailer was small, but she kept it spotless. She grew tomatoes in a cracked plastic bin and read library books at night under a thrift store lamp. Her world was humble, sure, but not bitter. She didn't envy the women who drove shiny SUVs or went on cruises. Well, maybe a little. But she knew how to be content. Still, sometimes, late at night, when the wind rattled the thin walls and the silence felt heavier than usual, she wondered what it would be like to matter. To walk into a room and have people stop what they were doing. To be seen. To be remembered. The town went on without her, as towns do. People lived and died and had babies and affairs and bake sales. June kept pouring coffee, kept smiling, kept writing quiet wishes into her notebook. She'd learned not to expect much from life. Just enough. But everything changes, sometimes when you least expect it. And June's moment was coming, tucked just around the corner in the form of a crumpled ticket, a fluke of numbers, and a storm she never saw coming. She had no idea that the world was about to remember her name. It started the same way it always did. Saturday night, June walked into the gas station just before closing. The air inside smelled like stale hot dogs and floor cleaner. The hum of the fluorescent lights felt familiar. Leo, the clerk, gave her a lazy smile from behind the counter. "Pint of mint chip and the usual." June nodded, digging a few crumpled bills out of her pocket. He handed her the ice cream and printed the ticket. She folded it in half without even looking at the numbers and slid it into her wallet. "Maybe this is your week," Leo said, in that half-joking tone he always used. June chuckled. "Sure. And maybe I'll wake up with wings." The next morning, she nearly threw the ticket away. She'd made a pot of coffee and was halfway through folding laundry when the news anchor on the TV mentioned the winning Powerball numbers. June wasn't even listening until she caught the tail end of the segment, something about the largest jackpot in state history and how the winning ticket was sold, locally. She blinked. Turned up the volume. The numbers crawled across the screen. 14.17.28.53.19. Powerball, 9. Her heart gave a little thud in her chest. Then another. Slowly, like she was moving underwater, she pulled the ticket from her wallet. She read the numbers once. Then again. Then a third time. Her hands began to shake. She stared at the slip of paper like it might catch fire. A strange silence fell over the trailer, even though the TV was still murmuring in the background. It wasn't possible. This wasn't real. But it was. She had won. Not a few thousand. Not $1 million. $2 billion. The next few days were a blur of paperwork and disbelief. She followed the instructions online, signed the back of the ticket, called the claim center. She chose the lump sum. She didn't tell anyone, not yet. It didn't feel real. Even when the lawyer and financial advisor sat across from her in a sleek office downtown, explaining tax brackets and portfolio diversification, she still felt like she was dreaming. They asked what she wanted to do first. A new house? A car? Travel? She couldn't answer. She went home that night and sat on her porch until the sun went down, just staring out at the gravel road, listening to the cicadas. The same sounds. The same town. But everything had changed. The money hit her account on a Friday. She didn't tell anyone that weekend. Not Leo. Not her coworkers. Not even Carla, her sister, who she hadn't spoken to in almost 4 years. But the secret felt like it was burning a hole in her. By Monday, it was already too late. The local paper ran a story. Someone in town had won. The exact gas station was named. Photos of the shop, blurry and zoomed in, were posted online. People started guessing. Gossip bloomed like wildfire. June didn't go to work. She called in sick for the first time in 5 years. On Tuesday morning, there was a knock at her door. It was Carla. June hadn't seen her since their mother's funeral. Her sister stood on the porch like a ghost, wearing sunglasses and holding a travel mug. She looked thinner, harsher, but her voice was soft when she spoke. "I heard someone in town won the lottery," she said. "I had this weird feeling. I don't know why. Was it you?" June didn't speak. Carla let out a slow breath and leaned against the porch railing. "I know we're not close. I know I was a mess. But if it was you, I hope you're okay. That's all." June hesitated. Then nodded. Carla's mouth fell open. "June. Oh my God. I don't know what I am right now," June whispered. Her sister didn't ask for money. Not then. She just hugged her. And June, who hadn't been hugged in what felt like years, started to cry. By the end of that week, the news had spread. Her phone rang constantly. Reporters staked out the trailer park. People who never noticed her before suddenly acted like they'd always cared. Some of it was kind. Some of it was desperate. "Do you remember me? From school? My mom said you were her best friend. She's sick and needs surgery. I have this business idea." Leo asked her to invest in his cousin's shop. The diner's manager asked her to buy the restaurant outright. Hank wanted a loan. Gloria needed help paying for her son's rehab. Everyone had a reason. Everyone needed something. And June. June didn't know how to say no. The girl who'd once only dreamed of fixing her porch steps was now being asked to solve everyone's life. She thought winning would make her feel powerful. But all she felt was scared. At first, June tried to be generous. She bought Carla a small house, nothing flashy, just a fixer-upper with a fenced yard and decent plumbing. She gave Leo enough money to start that shop, even though she thought it was a terrible idea. She paid off Hank's gambling debt and wrote a check for Gloria's son's treatment. She gave quietly, without fanfare. She thought it would make her feel useful. Maybe even loved. But the thing about giving is, once people know you will, they stop asking if they should. They just take. And slowly, June felt herself disappearing again, this time not into invisibility, but into expectation. Carla started calling every day, then twice a day. It began with gratitude. "You saved my life, June." But soon it turned into complaints. The plumbing in the new house sucked, the neighbors were weird. Could June upgrade her car? Just a small SUV. Nothing crazy. Leo's shop tanked. He never said thank you. Hank showed up drunk one night, pounding on her door, begging for just a little more help. She called the cops. He cried as they took him away. Gloria ghosted her completely. And people June had never even met before started sending letters. Some were heartbreaking, single moms, veterans, widows. But others were cruel. Her email filled with strangers' tragedies. Her voicemail, with sobbing voices. She changed her number. Moved to a condo an hour outside town. It had a view of a lake and silence she used to dream about. But she couldn't sleep. One afternoon, she drove back into town. She wore sunglasses and a hoodie, but people still stared. A man in the parking lot whispered her name. A woman followed her into the grocery store, pretending to shop beside her before finally blurting, "I've got 3 kids. I'm not asking for much. Just 5,000. June left her cart and walked out. She felt like her own skin didn't fit anymore. That night, June stood in front of her bathroom mirror, watching her own reflection like it belonged to someone else. Her eyes looked hollow. Her hair, longer now, hung in loose waves. Her face was thinner. She didn't look rich. She didn't look powerful. She looked scared. She ran a bath. Poured in lavender oil. Lit candles, the way the therapist had suggested. She sank into the water, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. For a moment, she wondered, what if I just vanished? The thought came soft, like a whisper. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just, there. Not because she wanted to die. But because she didn't know who she was anymore. June Miller, the invisible woman, had become everyone's fantasy. But nobody had bothered to ask what she needed. And then, like a crack in the storm, something broke open. Her old notebook. She found it in a moving box, water-stained and bent at the edges. The one she used to write dreams in, back when she thought they'd never come true. She sat cross-legged on the bedroom floor, flipping through pages filled with quiet wishes. Fix the porch steps. Take a train trip. Try painting again. Buy fresh flowers just once a week. Call Carla, if she'll pick up. Her throat tightened. Not a single thing on that list had to do with money. Just life. And somehow, with all the millions she'd spent, she'd lost sight of the one thing she'd always wanted, peace. Simplicity. Freedom. The next morning, she made a decision. She closed every open tab in her life. Froze her accounts. Told her financial advisor to move everything into a private trust, anonymous. She would still have access, but the public? The media? Everyone else? Cut off. She turned off her phone. She packed a bag. And she left. No goodbyes. No explanations. She just walked away, from the noise, the weight, the people who only saw her as a dollar sign. She took the train. Window seat. No one noticed her. And for the first time since she won, June smiled. Because not being noticed was no longer a curse. It was her freedom. June disappeared like a summer storm, sudden, silent, and leaving only questions behind. People in town talked. The diner crowd swapped theories like poker chips. She moved to Paris. Maybe she died. Carla called, texted, emailed. The messages got more frantic, then angry, then quiet. Eventually, they stopped. But June didn't check her inbox anyway. The train took her north, through forests that turned gold in October, across rivers that shimmered like silk. She got off in a tiny town with no billboards and a single stoplight. No one recognized her there. No one cared. She found a cottage just outside town, small, old, crooked in the way that made it feel alive. The kind of place where the wind sang through the windows and the floors creaked when you laughed too hard. It had ivy growing up one wall and a red mailbox that leaned but held strong. She paid cash. Used a different name. No one asked questions. She planted herbs in the garden. Painted the kitchen cabinets bright yellow. Bought a second-hand easel and started painting again, badly at first, then with more confidence. Not for galleries. Just for herself. At the local market, she introduced herself simply as June. No one asked, "June who?" And she liked it that way. There was a moment, maybe 3 months in, where she stood barefoot on her porch at dusk, sipping tea as the wind blew through the trees. The sky was lavender, the air smelled like pine, and the only sound was the soft buzz of insects settling in for the night. It hit her then, not the way it hit when she saw the lottery numbers, not like a punch to the chest, but like a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding for years. She was okay. She didn't need to be rich. She didn't need to be remembered. She just needed this, the quiet. The choice. The space to exist on her own terms. Months passed. She started volunteering once a week at the library. Helped a woman named Mara fix her broken fence. Taught a teenage girl how to sketch landscapes. She never spoke about the money. She never had to. But sometimes she did send things, quietly, anonymously. A new wheelchair delivered to Gloria's son. The diner got a donation big enough to renovate the whole place, under the name of a fictional foundation. And Carla? She got a letter. Just a note, no return address. "I'm okay. I hope you find peace, too. J." There was a check inside, enough to ease the strain but not enough to open the floodgates again. Sometimes love had to be given with boundaries. June had finally learned that. One night, in early spring, a boy from town asked her what she did before she moved here. She thought for a moment, sipping her tea. "I worked at a diner," she said. Poured coffee. Took orders. Tried to remember people's names. He blinked. "That's it?" "That's enough," she smiled. And in her heart, she knew it was. Years later, the story of the woman who won the lottery and disappeared became small-town legend. People stopped trying to find her. Her name faded from the headlines. The world moved on. But in a cottage by the woods, June lived exactly the life she had always dreamed of, not because she had money, but because she had finally chosen herself. No one noticed her there. And that, finally, was the greatest gift of all. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you.